No.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you another found footage review, and today I'm taking a look at the 2010 found footage horror film The Last Exorcism. The film is directed by Daniel Stam and it stars Patrick Fabian, Ashley Bell, Iris Baer, Lewis Hertham and Caleb Landry Jones. Right, okay, the film focuses on Patrick Fabian's character, Cotton. He is a pastor. He has been preaching since he was a young boy. He's almost, like a local celebrity, really. He's been doing it. His father's been encouraging him to do it ever since he was a young boy. But that also includes exorcisms. Now, he's suffering a little bit of a crisis of faith. Now, when he says he's done like 40 odd exorcisms, what he basically means is he hasn't. He has made people believe that they were having an exorcism in order for them to feel better. He basically is a charlatan. He is not an exorcist at all. He just makes people believe he is, so that they'll think the demons have been removed from their body, sort of thing. And so far it's worked. This act has worked, but he's had enough. He doesn't want to do it anymore for reasons that he gives in the film. So he decides that this next one is going to pick one at random, because people send him letters from all over the country to come and do an exorcism. So he picks one out at random, and there's a film crew following him, and this next one that he's going to do is going to be his last exorcism, hence the title of the film. They head out there to a remote farm, and they are greeted by a very religious father who explains that his daughter Nell, he believes, is possessed by a demon. Now, obviously, Cotton doesn't believe this. He doesn't believe it for a second, but he goes through the motions. He tries to trick them into believing that an exorcism has taken place. However, for this final exorcism, it turns out that there is indeed evil present, and he ain't going to get off that easy. Right, so what are my thoughts on The Last Exorcism? Well, I've always been a bit of a fan of this film. I remember watching this when it first came out and thought it was really very good indeed. This is one of the fine examples of found footage when it's done right in pretty much all the departments. And what I mean by that is, it was a cinema release. It did very well at the cinema. So there's a lot of production values here that, make it look highly polished. You've got top-notch performers here. You believe the characters. The reason for the cameras being there all makes absolutely sense. The reason for him being there doing the exorcism all makes absolute sense. It ticks every box for a found footage film, and it does everything well. Even the scares, even the creepy bits. And one of the big reasons why I found this always to be so impactful is sometimes you'll watch like an exorcism film and there's priests involved, and you're kind of thinking, we're going to be okay. These priests know what they're doing. Or it doesn't have to be a priest. It could be like, like The Conjuring, like, the Warrens, demonologists and all this kind of stuff. And you're kind of thinking, okay, it's getting heavy here, but they're not going to know what they're doing. But what we've got here is a non-believer. We've got a pastor who has been preaching since he was a young boy, who clearly doesn't really believe in what he's doing. It's more a performance for him. He doesn't really know any better. He was thrust into it at such a young age, and he's got a real crisis of faith. So, as an audience member, when it becomes very, very clear in this film that there is something very sinister going on, that they've absolutely no ammo. There's no weapons. They've nothing to fight back, really, against these dark forces. And that's frightening, because normally, films like this, you've got a bit of a balance. You're kind of like, oh, we've got, there's a balance here, there's good against bad. And, the good side have got, some weapons they can use. Well, this guy's got nothing because he doesn't believe in what he's doing. And this documentary crew certainly don't have anything. And that is frightening for an audience member, because you kind of like, nobody can really do anything here. And what I think the film does a really good job of as well for massive chunks of the film is it makes you wonder, is this girl just a troubled young woman? Is this girl mourning the death of her mother and pushing back on her father's religious upbringing? All these things go through your mind. Is she really just a very disturbed young lady? Or is she really possessed by some demonic entity? And the film does a fabulous job of making you think, oh yeah, she's possessed. She's absolutely possessed. And then in the next breath, you're kind of like, oh, actually, no. She can't be possessed, because this proves she's not, right up until the point where you can't really have any doubts. And I think this is one of the most impactful endings of a found footage film that I can remember. I mean, there's some found footage films have got legendary endings, like The Borderlands and things like that, and even Grave Encounters, and probably many more that I could mention. Blair Witch Project as well. But this, I think, has got a really excellent ending that just kind of really draws you in, and it just kind of flips everything, and you're kind of like, oh my God, what is going to happen now? And I really, really like that about the film. So I know they did do a sequel to this, and I haven't seen the sequel. My understanding is it's not found footage, the sequel, but they did do a Last Exorcism Part 2 that I don't believe was particularly well received, but I'm actually interested in checking that out. I remember when that first came out and it wasn't getting good reviews, my thought patterns were, well, I'm not going to watch it. I don't want it to spoil my enjoyment of the first one. But I probably will check it out now, because it's a while since I've watched this. And I don't know why, really, because like I say, I've always been a bit of a fan of this found footage film. The glasses keep steaming up. I'll take them off, even though I can't see anything now. But I've really always been a fan of this one. I think this is one of those found footage films that you can show to someone who doesn't really like found footage or thinks it's just cheap and nasty and not particularly well done. There are some found footage films that are done with great production values that you can show someone and you can say, right, when found footage is done right, here, this is an example of it. And I think most people who, like good horror, but are not really a big fan of found footage, this is one to potentially try and win them over. I mean, there's a lot of examples of great found footage films, but I would definitely put this in the pack to bring people on board and convert them to our religion of found footage. Yeah, that was a bit much, I know, but there you go. So yeah, my thoughts on The Last Exorcism there. Let me know if you've seen it, or if you haven't seen it, has this review made you want to watch it? If you like found footage and you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy this one. And I will definitely be checking out the sequel at some point. So thanks for joining me for this review, guys. Of course, you know very well I will be back on the channel with loads more content very, very soon.